Thousands of years ago, in the southern lowlands of Mexico, there was an ancient civilization called the Olmec. The Olmec culture first appeared around 1200 BC and declined around 400 BC. Now let's take a look at some geography. The Olmec heartland was approximately 125 miles long and 50 miles wide, stretching from the lowlands in the east to the Tuxtlas Mountains in the west. This area was filled with an abundance of varieties in geology and ecology. The Olmec territory is divided in half by the Coatzacoalcos River system, separating the land into the present-day states Tabasco and Veracruz. The surrounding region had very fertile land and provided natural barriers, so the Olmec population thrived in this dense area. The Olmec's first civilization was a city called San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan, one of the largest cities in Mesoamerica. It was abandoned in 900 BC, and about the same time another Olmec city rose to prominence, La Venta. San Lorenzo, however, was the main urban city in Olmec history. The Coatzacoalcos River system played a large role in the Olmec society, mainly used for trade and transportation. San Lorenzo's strategic position and context with the river allowed it to have local control over trade with goods such as obsidian, jade, serpentine, mica, rubber, pottery, and feathers. Now let's move on to the Olmec's architecture and social life. The Olmecs were the first civilization to build pyramids, these structures usually located toward the center of the city. They were covered in decorative stone carvings depicting many different gods and deities. Though the Olmec did build magnificent cities structured out of stone, most Olmecs did not live in them. They lived in small villages on the outskirts of the city where they held jobs as farmers or fishermen. The closer they lived to the city usually corresponded with their social status. The closer to the city, the more elite your family was. Their homes were typically one large building made from earth packed around poles. It served as a multi-purpose room, and they would often store their food inside holes dug in the floor. Up next, we'll be discussing some Olmec tools. In regard to tools, the Olmecs used materials such as clay, stone, bone, wood, or deer antlers to create them. The Olmec had basic tools like hammers, wedges, and grinders used for mashing corn or other grains. These tools were usually made out of stone. Weapons were also usually made of stone or bone. One of their more rare tools were knives made from obsidian, but because obsidian was not native to the Olmec heartland, they were very difficult to obtain. One of their most impressive skills was their pottery making. The pottery was traditionally made out of clay and was crafted for storing and cooking food. Over the years, millions of these clay creations have been found in and around Olmec sites. Now let's have a quick look at some Olmec technology. The Olmec were one of the first cultures to have what are believed to have been aqueducts. Stones were carved into a U shape and then covered with a capstone. They were believed to have been able to deliver drinking water to the city. Up next, we'll be discussing Olmec religion. The Olmec were polytheistic, believing in more than one god or deity. They believed in gods such as the Olmec dragon, the bird monster, the fish monster, the water god, the maize god, and the feathered serpent. They would perform religious rituals in temples, courts, caves, and mountaintops. The Olmec would also play a ritualistic ball game, one of the oldest sports documented in the Americas. This game was played with a rubber ball that players would try to get through a ring by using their hips, elbows, or knees. They believed it was a game of good versus evil, and the human sacrifice at the end is done in order to fertilize the earth and feed the sun the victim's blood. Next up, we will be briefly touching on Olmec laws. As far as laws and rules go, there was often little difference between religious rule and civic rule. The Olmecs had a king who was usually a shaman or a priest, and they were believed to have divine powers. The last topic that we will be talking about is Olmec art. The Olmecs are most widely known for their artwork, mainly their colossal heads made of stone. The heads were made to honor and praise the Olmec rulers, as the Olmecs believed that art gave power to the ruler. Along with the massive heads, the Olmecs also carved stone altars with images representing the tunnel to the supernatural world engraved on the front. The Olmecs were also the first group of people to have definite and elaborate symbols to represent language.